When my in-laws lost their home, I cleared out my office to make space. Months later, I overheard her mother tell my son, "Your dad doesn't really belong here." My wife was sitting right there. She didn't correct her. That night I asked if she agreed. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "They're not wrong." I slept in my car that night, and the next morning, last winter, my in-laws lost their house in a fire. Whole place burned down in the middle of the night. They made it out with the clothes on their backs and a few things they could grab. No one got hurt, thankfully, but the house was a total loss. A few hours after the fire, my wife asked me if they could move in with us for a little while. I didn't hesitate. I said yes before she even finished the sentence. We had an extra room, my home office, but it didn't feel like a question to me. Her parents needed help. That's what family does. I cleared it out the same day. Took the desk apart, packed up all my work stuff, moved the shelves and equipment into the garage. Some of it I sold because there wasn't room to keep everything. I didn't complain. I wanted them to feel welcome. They moved in 3 days later. Her mom, Joyce, and her dad, Walter. Joyce came in like she was doing us a favor. First night she said the couch was too soft. Then she said the hallway light made it hard for her to sleep. Within a week, she'd rearranged our kitchen cabinets because they made no sense. I came home one day and couldn't find the coffee mugs. She laughed and said I'd get used to a better system. Walter barely talked. He just sat on the porch most days, staring out at the street. Quiet guy. No trouble but no help either. We've got a 6-year-old son, Mason. He's a good kid. Bright. Always asking questions about the world. He was excited to have his grandparents around, especially his grandma. She gave him snacks, played little games with him, told him stories. I was glad he had that time with them. But the longer they stayed, the more the house started to feel like it wasn't mine anymore. Joyce kept calling things her way or how we used to do it. She told Mason that real men do yard work even though I work full-time from home and had already started doing the lawn myself. She said I hid behind a laptop all day once in front of my son. I was on a conference call when she said it. I talked to my wife about it. Told her it was getting to me. That I was starting to feel like a guest in my own house. She just said she's been through a lot. Try to be patient. So I was. For weeks. Then last Thursday happened. It was raining that morning, so I left my car down the street because of some work being done on our driveway. I came home earlier than usual that evening. I didn't tell anyone I was back. Just came in through the gate, walked around the side of the house. Figured I'd surprise Mason before bedtime. As I came up to the window near the living room, I heard voices. Joyce. Mason. My wife. Mason said, "Grandma, how come Daddy doesn't have an office anymore?" And Joyce answered without even pausing, "Because your daddy doesn't really belong here, sweetheart." That's what she said. Clear as day. I stopped walking. I waited. I expected to hear my wife cut in. Say something. Tell her that was out of line. But she didn't. I stood there for maybe another minute. Nothing. No one corrected her. No one said a word. That night, when we were in bed, I asked my wife, "Do you agree with what your mom said?" She didn't ask what I meant. She knew. She just looked at me and said, "They're not wrong." I didn't say anything back. I just got up, grabbed a pillow, my phone, my wallet, and left. Slept in the car. Parked around the corner. Didn't want my son to see me. The next morning, I didn't go inside. I sat in the car for over an hour. Thinking. Watching our house. She didn't text. Didn't call. No one came out to look for me. That was when something in me flipped. I went to work like nothing happened. All day I was on autopilot. Took calls. Answered emails. Laughed when I had to. But my head was somewhere else. I kept thinking about my kid hearing that. Joyce telling him I didn't belong. My wife sitting there letting it happen. And then doubling down like it was the truth. When I got home that evening, no one asked where I'd been. Joyce was in the kitchen like usual, acting like the queen of the house. My wife was on the couch, scrolling her phone. Mason came running up, said, "Hi, Daddy," and hugged me around the legs. I hugged him back, tight. That night, I slept in the guest room, my old office. Joyce didn't say anything, just raised her eyebrows like she'd won something. Over the next few days, I stopped talking much. I did what I had to, worked, took care of Mason, paid the bills, but I didn't engage. I started watching things closer. Who did what, who said what, how money moved in and out of our accounts. Joyce wasn't working. Walter wasn't either. Neither of them were contributing a cent. They were just living there, eating our food, using our water, using our space. My wife had picked up extra shifts to help, but most of that money was going to her mom's medical stuff. Stuff I wasn't even told about until it showed up on our shared insurance bill. Then one night, about a week later, I overheard something else. Joyce was on the phone. I don't think she knew I was still awake. She said, "He's still here, but I don't think it'll be long now. She'll come to her senses eventually. This house will be hers again. Just a matter of time." Hers again? We bought this house together. My name is on every document. I put down the down payment. I've paid every mortgage bill. And now her mom was talking like it was some family heirloom she was waiting to get back. The next day I started taking steps. Quiet ones. I opened a separate bank account, rerouted my direct deposit, started moving important documents out of the house: passport, SS card, birth certificates. Put them in a safe deposit box under my name only. I called a lawyer just to ask questions. Then I had a second talk with Mason. We were playing with his dinosaur set and I said, "Hey bud, when Grandma said I don't belong here, how did that make you feel?" He looked confused. "I didn't like it, but Mommy didn't say anything, so I thought maybe you were going away." That hit me harder than anything. I said, "I'm not going anywhere without you. You know that, right?" He nodded, but I could tell he wasn't sure. Later that night, my wife asked why I was being so distant. I didn't answer right away. Just looked at her and said, "I'm watching." She said, "Watching what?" I said, "Everything." She rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic. What she didn't know was that I'd already started logging things. Every expense, every insult, every time they crossed a line. I had a folder on my personal cloud, backed up and hidden. I started recording Joyce when she got too bold, little audio clips here and there. I wasn't sure what I was building yet, but I was building something, and I wasn't planning to give a warning. 3 weeks after I moved into the guest room, I came home from work and noticed one of my framed diplomas was missing from the hallway. Just gone. I asked my wife if she moved it. She said, "Oh, Mom didn't like the way it looked. She thought it clashed with the paint." That was it. No apology. No offer to hang it somewhere else. Like my achievements were a decorating mistake she got to fix. That night, I checked the garage where I'd stored most of my office stuff. My boxes had been moved. A few were opened. One was wet. Something had spilled on it. And another, the one with my personal journals and some old photos from my childhood, was just gone. I asked my wife. She shrugged and said maybe some things got tossed during cleaning. I stared at her. "You threw away my personal things?" She said, "Why are you making it such a big deal?" It wasn't just a big deal. It was the moment I realized she no longer saw anything of mine as worth protecting. So I stopped protecting her. I went to her phone account, which I still had admin access to from when we bundled our plans. Looked through the past month's logs. She'd been calling her mom every day, even when they were in the same house. Sometimes right after we'd had arguments. Sometimes after I'd left the room. One call stood out. It was to a number I didn't recognize, but it was over an hour long. Late at night, I copied the number and looked it up. It was a divorce lawyer. That shook me. She hadn't mentioned anything to me. No conversations about separating. No warnings. Nothing. She was planning something, and doing it behind my back, while I was still paying every bill, still showing up for our kid, still trying to figure out if there was anything left to save. I called the number the next day during my lunch break. Asked if they had a client named Jenna, not her real name. The woman on the line said, "I can't confirm or deny that." I said, "That's fine. Just know that if she's trying to take this house from me, she's going to have to fight harder than she thinks." The line went quiet. Then she hung up. After that, I changed the passwords on our joint savings account. Left hers alone, didn't touch a cent. I wasn't hiding anything. I just wasn't giving her easy access to everything I built. I also went through the title of the house again, just to make sure. Only my name was on it. She told her mom the house will be hers again. It never was hers to begin with. Joyce had never put in a dime. She talked her daughter into believing this was all hers by default, like marriage erased my name and replaced it with theirs. One night I came home and Mason met me at the door, sad. I asked what was wrong. He said, "Grandma says if you leave, I get to have 2 Christmases. But I don't want to." I want one with you. I swear. My hands were shaking. She was poisoning my son now. Preparing him. I kissed his head and told him, no one's leaving. Not yet. That not yet stuck in my throat. Because I knew what was coming. And I was done playing defense. A few days after that talk with Mason, I finally sat down with a real lawyer. Told her everything. Showed her the notes, the recordings, the call logs, the house deed, the accounts. She leaned back, looked me in the eye and said, you're already 5 steps ahead. Now you need to decide, do you want out quietly, or do you want to take them down on the way out? I said, I want them to feel it. That weekend I took Mason on a daddy day. Just the 2 of us. Aquarium, lunch, movie, ice cream. When I brought him home, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, we're gonna do this every weekend now. Joyce narrowed her eyes. My wife barely looked up. What they didn't know was that I had already filed for full custody. I had set up a hidden nanny cam in the hallway. It had picked up Joyce yelling at Mason when no one else was around, telling him things like, your daddy's a loser and one day he'll be gone for good. On one clip, she actually told him not to tell me what she said. I showed all of that to the lawyer. She said it was gold. I also found out Joyce had a minor theft charge from years ago. Nothing major, but it helped paint the picture. And Walter? He wasn't even her legal husband. They'd never married, which meant he was just a guy squatting in my house. Then came the tipping point. One night, I came home and saw a moving truck in the driveway. I walked in and saw Joyce directing 2 guys to move my things out of the garage. I said, what the hell is this? She said, we're making room. You've had enough space around here. I turned to my wife, who was standing there like it was normal. She said, we talked about it. You've been distant for weeks. Maybe it's time you took some space. That was it. I didn't yell. Didn't argue. I just walked into our bedroom, grabbed the manila folder from my locked drawer, walked back out and dropped it on the kitchen counter. Inside was a printed copy of the house deed showing only my name. A court-stamped custody request. A timeline of every moment Joyce insulted, manipulated, or emotionally messed with my son. Screenshots of the divorce lawyer's call logs. The audio transcripts of Joyce telling Mason I don't belong. My wife opened it, flipped through the first few pages, and froze. Joyce said, what is this? Some kind of threat? I said, no, it's just notice. You have 7 days to get out. Both of you. You're not on the lease, you're not owners, and legally you're guests. Unwanted guests now. My wife said, you can't just kick out my family. I said I can. And I will. I had already gotten a court order. They had 7 days. No negotiation. For those 7 days, I barely spoke to anyone but Mason. I still slept in the guest room. My wife tried to talk to me one night, but I told her, you made your choice when you sat there and said I didn't belong. Now I'm making mine. On day 6, Joyce snapped. She cornered me in the kitchen and said, you'll regret this. You'll die alone. I said, better alone than lied to in my own home. Day 7, they were gone. Truck packed. Boxes loaded. No goodbyes. My wife moved out 2 weeks later. I didn't fight her for anything but my son. And I won. Full custody. Joyce tried to fight it, but the judge heard the recordings, saw the transcripts, and said Mason was safer with me. It's been 8 months now. Sometimes I wake up and think it was all a bad dream. But then I walk into my office, my actual office again, and see the photo of me and Mason at the aquarium. Just us. Smiling. I'm not perfect. I should have stood up sooner. I let too much slide. Let too many people talk down to me in my own house. I wanted to keep the peace and it cost me too much. But in the end, I learned something. If you let people walk all over you, they'll convince you you're the doormat. So I stopped lying down. And now, the house is quiet, clean, safe. I asked Mason the other night if he missed Grandma. He shrugged and said, not really. I like it better now. You laugh more. And that's when I knew I did the right thing. Because now every room in this house finally feels like it belongs to us. And not 1 inch of it belongs to people who thought I didn't.